other component we have in the compound feed is the vitamin. Vitamins, they are organic compounds that contains carbon and are used for the metabolism systems in the body. So they must be there. They are required in very small quantities. There are different types of vitamins that, and I can mention few of them. We have vitamin A, which we call the retinol. This is one important vitamin that is very important for production. If not available, the birds may not produce well. It was also very important for vision. We need your birds to be alert, so provide the vitamin A. It is highly available in green leaves. You can also source it as a synthetic product. But instead of going to the synthetic vitamin A, you can give your birds the green vegetables like the grass, the sukuma wikis, I said, the kale, anything green, and they'll be able to synthesize that vitamin A. The bird also requires vitamin K. Vitamin K is required in high doses, and it's also very important for production. It is available in fish oils. So if you're using the fish as your source of protein, you'll also be able to provide the vitamin K, which is required for productivity. So basically, vitamins are vital organic products that are mostly required for the production of the bird. We also have the vitamin D that everybody knows. Vitamin D, you do not need to do the synthetic vitamin D. You can just expose your birds to the sunshine, and with the precursors on their skin, they will be able to synthesize that precursor into available vitamin D. Otherwise, all vitamins are found as synthetic products. If you're not able to feed your animals or birds well, you can buy the synthetic vitamins and feed your birds. But remember, they are required in very small quantities. The other vitamins that are required in the bird are the B vitamins. This includes the B1, the B2, the B12, the biotin, the choline. All those fall in the B, and their main function is prevent the bleeding. Actually, they are called the preventers of hemorrhagic. A bird that does not have enough vitamin B will find that it has hemorrhages. So it's also a very important factor in the production. So like now you know that at a certain time of the laying bird, farmers tend to cut their beak. If your birds have less vitamin Bs in the system, they may bleed, and the blood may not clot well. But if you feed your animals properly with vitamin B, the clotting will be fast and the healing of the beak will be very fast. Actually, the vitamins, as I said, they are available in the synthetic manner, and also if you feed your animals on the green matter products, you'll be able to achieve all those vitamins that we have talked about. The other component that is important in the feed is the minerals. People confuse the minerals and the vitamins, but minerals are inorganic compounds that do not contain the carbon. Vitamins, they are organic compounds that contain carbon. But minerals are inorganic compounds that do not contain carbon. So whenever you are told without the other word, you should be able to tell that whenever we talk of a product that is inorganic but contains no carbon, that's a mineral. Minerals, they are also required in small quantities, and they also assist in the body metabolism. The most required mineral in the poultry production is the calcium and phosphorus. Actually, the two work together, and if fed in wrong proportions, they may jeopardize the availability of each, because we normally have our source of calcium as from the limestone flour or the corals, the limestone corals. Those are the main sources of calcium that we have in the market. We also have the synthetic source of calcium coming as dicalcium phosphate, meaning that it has calcium and has phosphorus. That's why I told the two work together. And then we have the monocalcium phosphate. It's very important to know that calcium, being a mineral and calcium being an element, it is highly reactive as compared to phosphorus. So whenever you are feeding your animal with calcium and phosphorus, you must ensure that the proportion of calcium and phosphorus are the same. Otherwise, if you give more calcium, calcium is going to react with phosphorus, making an insoluble salt called the calcium phosphate. In the growing poultry, between the chick and the growing stage, ensure that the calcium and the phosphorus levels are 1:1. If you are doing 1 kg of calcium, you should also do 1 kg of phosphorus. If you are doing a combination of the two, ensure that the chemical that you use when you calculate the ratios are at 1:1. Otherwise, the calcium being highly reactive as compared to the phosphorus, remember the reactivity series. The calcium is going to react with phosphorus and then form an insoluble salt called the calcium phosphate, making the calcium unavailable to the bird. But when the bird starts laying, you can now increase the calcium levels to 6:1. So even if this calcium reacts with this one phosphorus, forming calcium phosphate, you have another 5 that are available for the bird. At this stage, you do not require a lot of phosphorus, because phosphorus at growing stage of the bird is of the animal, like now the cow, it's only used for the milk letdown. We are not looking for milk here. We are looking for just calcium for the maintenance of the bones and also the stability of the bird and the formation of the shell. So that's why it's advisable that when the bird starts laying, increase the calcium levels to 6 and phosphorus level, let it be at 1, because we do not need the phosphorus, but we need the calcium for the two purposes, for the skeleton and also for the egg shell formation. The other mineral that is required in big numbers is the manganese. The manganese is also another component of the skeletal muscles. So it's only important when the calcium is available, and manganese is available, and phosphorus is available, you are sure that the skeletal muscles or the stability of your bird is up to date. The other mineral that people take advantage of and not provide is the sodium chloride, which everybody calls the salt. Now the salt is a very tricky mineral, that is the sodium chloride. There are places whereby the salt is available in water. If you are using borehole water, it means that the levels of sodium chloride are a little higher than when you're using the fresh water. So at this time, I normally tell farmers that it now depends on what water you are using, but do not exceed 0.3% of the feed do not exceed 0.3% of sodium chloride to the feed of any bird. But if you are using borehole water, and if that water is also salty to your taste, ensure that you do 0.1. So that's why I normally say that every farmer, every region, we have different formulation, because the bird requirement would depend with the environment into which they are living. Those are the most important minerals in the bird, but there are also other minerals that are provided. The manganese, they have very little significance. The copper, they have very little significance, but I can talk about the copper, the iron. The copper and the iron, they also have a very big role to play in the blood clotting. I said there before that vitamins help in the blood clotting, but if you have good sources of iron and copper, they will come and help the vitamin, and your birds are not going to have problems of hemorrhages. Normally when you slaughter a bird, you find that you have hemorrhages along the drumstick, and those hemorrhages may be provided if at all you have good supply of iron, copper in the diet. The other product that we have and could be important for you to know is that you require a little bit of iodine, and iodine is available in iodized salts. So if you are doing poultry formulation, remember that you should always use iodized salt. Just the salt that you are eating, that's the salt that is good for your poultry. Do not use the Manganese salt, because contains no iodine. Otherwise, iodine is also important for the production of hormones in the body. So for a female bird, iodine will be very important, but for males, it will not be very important. So if you want productivity to be prolonged, especially for breeders, it's important that you do not use any salt, but ensure that whatever salt you're using is iodized salt, and should not exceed 0.3% if you're using fresh water, or 0.1% if you're using borehole water. If you want to see whether your birds have deficient in sodium chloride, one thing, they will lose appetite, and they will have wet droppings, which is common in many other things. So, but poor appetite, if you find your birds are not eating, you have not seen any diarrhea, you have not seen any sick bird, the first thing that you should check is what salt am I using. Birds also have that ability to check whether there's a little bit of taste in their food. So let's give them what they want. The very final component that is important in the feed is the water. Water, and fresh water, clean water that can be drunk by human or a cow is important for a bird. Water is important for temperature regulations in the bird. It's also important for the absorption of the food, because we say that the food is required for the movement of the feed into the digestive system. If the bird is dehydrated, the food is not going to move very well into the system. So you require water to cool the bird, you require water for the proper absorption of the nutrients. So if you feed your bird with less water, they will not be able to absorb as much nutrients. Remember, the bird has only 6 hours to absorb as much nutrients as possible. The other importance of water is that it helps in the flow of the food from the beak to the esophagus to the crop. Remember that this bird, whenever a bird eats food for maybe 30 minutes, it goes to drink water to enable it to the food that had been left to flow down into the crop for storage purposes. So fresh water and clean water should be provided to the bird, and the consumption of water to the bird is dependent on the environmental temperatures. Birds that are being reared in very high temperatures will consume a lot of water. Birds that are being reared in cold areas or temperate regions will consume less water. So provide water ad lib at the comfort of the bird, that it can drink to its fill. It's not going to overdrink, but it's going to drink enough water for those purposes. The other factor that affect the water intake is the diet. Food that is fibrous will attract the bird to drink more water. Remember that the bird does not require very fibrous food. So a lot of fiber will be left on the esophagus, and to remove that food, the bird is going to drink more water. And if it drinks more water because of that fibrous, it means that at the lower gut, the water is not going to be absorbed fully, and you may end up having wet litter. So always ensure that the food contains the appropriate amount of fiber, that the bird just drinks enough water for its survival. Birds, when exposed to high temperatures, if at all the weather just changes abruptly, the bird will find a way of drinking more water, but after 3-4 days, the bird will get used to the temperatures and may not be able to drink any more water. It's going to drink normal water. So in terms of stress, heat stress, the bird will go to the water, drink more water the first 3 days, but after that it's going to drink normal water. And if it drinks more water and the temperatures are high, it means that less food is available for production. So that's why we see that in times of heat stress, or in areas where temperatures are not constant, the production of those birds are never constant, because the bird tries to adjust, but after 3 days it's not able to drink all that, it just relaxes. And so the water that is available for the food's absorption is not available, it goes to cooling the bird, and so the rest, the production of that bird goes down. That's why I say, in the production, in the spirit of proper egg production, we need to look for areas that have constant temperature, or temperatures that not go to extreme high or extreme low, that the bird normally has a constant with a variation of 2 or 3. That's why I say some regions were not really meant for poultry eggs, they were meant for other types of farming. Having studied the components that are available, that are supposed to be available in a compound feed, I would just say one word to the farmers, that most of the feed that is available in the market do not reach the standards. As I said, that we need to balance the energy, we need to balance the protein, we need to balance the vitamins, we need to balance the minerals, we need to balance all these. We need to know which protein source provides the essential amino acid, which protein source does not have the essential and has another advantage amino acid. So I keep telling farmers that whenever you approach a feed miller or a supplier of raw material, ask them for the analysis of any product that they are giving you, and must be recent. If it's a 1 month analysis, it is not workable at that particular time. And if they give you the analysis, look for that line that says digestible crude protein. Digestible crude protein is the one that gives the amount of protein that will be available to your bird. It is, nobody is going to chase you away from their shop if you ask for analysis. If they don't have, you are free to walk to another place. Or you can come to me, I'll give you raw materials that have been analyzed, and you can ask me a question if the food does not perform to the right percentage, as I said. Because what we have, the feed industry has been encroached by the quacks, and farmers love the language of the quack. They want to hear a lie. They don't want to hear the truth. But the bird speaks better than anybody else. Let the bird speak, and the bird speaks, move away as fast as possible from that supplier, go to another supplier. For those who are interested in buying from me, at the end of this training, I'll give you my number. You can visit my feed mill in Thika, and I'll be able to help you in raw materials, in mixing, and all the requirements that you have in nutrition. In summary, what I can say about the components of a compound feed is that all these components, the carbohydrates, proteins, vitamins, minerals, are very, very important, and they work together for the productivity of your bird. So, I gave you the sources from which you can get the energy, and I told you what you can use for your poultry and what you cannot use. I gave you the sources of proteins and why we are not able to leave any of them. So what I need you to know is that they are available sources of energy like the maize. But if you just feed bare maize to your bird, it's going just to have energy and a slight amount of protein. No minerals, but you get a bit of vitamins. If you feed your birds on fish meal, the omena, you are only likely to get just protein, but we require some energy to break down the protein. So all these are related. You require energy to break down the protein. You require the proteins to build the muscles. So even if you have energy and you have nothing to make the muscles, it means that you are doing nothing. So ensure that you have a balanced feed. In the next course, I will be talking about how to formulate your food, and I can give you a simple way whereby you'll be able to get the desirable amount of the required proportions of the protein, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals, at the same time saving some money for more birds in your cage.